What is up, Texas college football fans? I'm IndyCar Tim, your host for Pigskin and Burn-Ins, your Texas college football podcast, coming at you live from the FanStream Sports Studios in North Dallas. Also, of course, part of that college Gridiron coast-to-coast network. Heard around the world wherever you get your podcast. We appreciate everybody tuning in. And what an exciting and, I guess, kind of historic week that we had in Texas college football. You had the Aggies ending Brian Kelly, and it didn't come soon enough. Down at LSU, you had the SMU Mustangs losing their first ever regular season ACC matchup to a very unlikely opponent, in my opinion, at least. You had TCU edging one out against somebody that they probably should have handled a little bit easier in West Virginia. You had the Texas Tech Red Raiders that continue to roll after that hiccup against Arizona State. They're back on track. And really all we're wondering is, when's Barron coming back? You had the Longhorns in a game that might have ended Arch Manning for a minute, squeaking past the Mississippi State Bulldogs there in Starkville in a game, another game on the calendar they should have lost, and yet somehow they find a way. And then add it all up, what do you got? You've got this week's Pigskin and Burn-Ins here on FanStream Sports and the College Gridiron Coast to Coast Network. Need to remind everybody, as usual, that this episode of Pigskin and Burn-Ins is sponsored in part by Ticket Smarter. The 2025 college football season is here, and we know you're looking for the best seats at the most competitive prices, and we want to make sure you take advantage of Ticket Smarter and the mobile app. We know more than ever that buying college football tickets online requires trust, and Ticket Smarter has partnered with more than 100 universities and 24 conferences. As their official ticket resale marketplace, they've also partnered with ESPN Events as an official ticket resale partner as well. Purchase your tickets quickly, securely, and at the best prices on the secondary market with the Ticket Smarter mobile app or at ticketsmarter.com. We've got, again, as usual, two great offers for you. You can save $10 on your purchase of $100 or more on Ticket Smarter by using the code LWOS10. Or if you spend more, you can save more, because if you spend $300 or more and use the promo code LWOS20, you'll save $20 off your purchase at ticketsmarter.com or the Ticket Smarter app. These codes are not just a one-time offer. These are good all year. So use them over and over and over again this season and save for the best selection of seats to this year's biggest games. Don't wait. Get the best selection and pricing now with Ticket Smarter. And remember the codes LWOS10 and LWOS20. Think smarter. Ticket Smarter. So yeah, definitely. There's a lot of games left, a lot of college football left this season. Wherever it is you want to go, I implore you, go now. Get your tickets now. Get it locked down there at ticketsmarter.com or the Ticket Smarter app. And don't forget our codes along the way. So look, let's just start with the biggest game of the week. The most impressive, we're talking Aggies, by the way. Can't tell as I get flustered talking about my Aggies because I'm just waiting for the glass slipper to fall off of this thing. And every week they win and they get it done in convincing fashion. And now I'm wondering if one of those glass slippers is ever going to fall off, because I thought the Notre Dame win was the most impressive win, and it was at the time. But I think what you did going into Death Valley in Baton Rouge on Saturday qualifies for the biggest win of the year now for the Aggies. And I don't know, maybe every win that you get the rest of the year is the biggest win for the Aggies. But you go into a place you hadn't won at in a while, by the way. And you lead your team to not just a victory over the 20 ranked LSU Tigers and Brian Kelly. You finish off the game. You take the second half by the horns, and you end any and all willingness to play the game for the Tigers players. Poor Garrett Nussmeier. Love the dude. Familiar with his dad, Doug, in his time with the Cowboys. But, dude, he got beat up on Saturday. And I think that's a microcosm of the entire Tigers team. What the Aggies defensive line was able to do to the line of scrimmage, to Garrett Nussmeier. Just take away all willingness to live from the Tigers players. You emptied the stadium. I've been watching LSU football for a long time, and I don't, especially a night game, I can't remember any time that the stadium has emptied out so fast. By the start of the fourth quarter, that thing was barren. It was Aggies fans all the way around. Of course, they'd moved up to the lower level seating. They've moved up behind the benches. And there wasn't an usher in sight that was going to say anything to any of them. And boys and girls, that was a sight to behold. And you could just tell that wasn't going to sit well with the boosters, with the program. And it didn't take long till Brian Kelly was given his walking papers. Look, I don't like to see guys get fired. I've never understood the Brian Kelly hire at LSU. I never got it, why he left Notre Dame to take that job. He is not a Southern boy. I never thought he fit in to the mold of an SEC coach, ever. And, he leaves Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman comes in and turns his roster basically into a contender. Brian Kelly comes to an established program at LSU, and he doesn't improve it. He might have maintained it, but I don't think he ever improved that thing. 0-2 in the college football playoff after going 11-4 in the D2 playoffs, where he cut his teeth there with Cincinnati. But, yeah, I just never got the move. Now it's over, thanks to Marcel Reed and the Aggies. Thanks to Mike Elko, his game planning on both sides of the ball. And it was a sight to behold for the now 8-0 Texas A&M Aggies, who are off to their best start since 1992 when they went 12-0 before losing to Notre Dame in the Cotton Bowl. I remember it well. I was there with my dad, with my pops, watching the Aggies lose. God, that was a gut punch, too, for that season, for sure. But, Reed, I don't consider Marcel Reed a Heisman candidate. He's finally showing up on some of the odds pretty high up. I just don't consider Marcel Reed a Heisman candidate for any other reason than he plays for the Aggies. Yes, and I know John David Crow. I know Johnny Manziel. I get it. I just don't think he's done enough to set himself apart. When Johnny Manziel won it back in 2012, there was no question he was going to win it. There was nobody that was close. Marcel Reed, there's a lot of competition for the Heisman this year. And I don't think that Marcel Reed is doing anything to set himself apart. Now, if the Aggies run the table and win a natty, I don't know. Or, the voting will be before that. But, if they get close, I mean, maybe. I don't see it happening for Marcel Reed this season as a sophomore. But he passed for 2 touchdowns and ran for 2 more scores and turned a very slim halftime deficit into a 49-25 victory on Saturday. Casey Concepcion caught one of Reed's touchdown tosses and returned a third quarter punt 79 yards for another score to put the game away. They snapped a 6-game skid at Tiger Stadium, winning there for the first time since 1994. Back when 48-year-old Mike Elko said he was starting at point guard for his high school basketball team was the last time the Aggies won at Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge. And he had a heartfelt yet man, I don't know, direct message for the team at halftime, because watching the game, something changed at halftime. You could tell by the way they came out playing, by the way they just dominated in the second half. And I was thinking to my football brain, what did Mike Elko tell this team? And he came out after the game. He told them, quote, "You are the better team. And if you don't play better football, you're going to let one slip away," end quote. And man, that is all the team needed to hear. That message hit home. And because of it, they're where they are now. Brian Kelly's out of work. Don't know how long that'll be. Reed goes for 202 yards and rushed for another 108, highlighted by his 41-yard touchdown scramble as he continues to build a case for his Heisman Trophy consideration. His other touchdown pass was a short flip to Jamarian Morrow, who covered most of the plays 24 yards after the catch. Morrow added an 11-yard touchdown on the ground in the fourth quarter. Garrett Nussmeier, who said no to the 2025 NFL draft to return to LSU, saw his highly anticipated senior season just continue to fold and crumble. He threw for 168 yards. He had a short TD pass to Green, but he was sacked 5 times and he was pulled from the game with 6 minutes and 2 seconds left. Just beaten and battered. LSU led it at halftime 18-14, but special teams plays, defense just dominated the second half for the Aggies. Once again, you had an Aggies blocked punt. This was not returned for a touchdown, but it was out of the back of the end zone for a safety, and it looked like another one of these, like, holy crap. Here we go, Aggies. Of course, you had the early blocked punt for a touchdown against Notre Dame that you overcame, and they overcame this one. Just an all-around effort, man. And like I said, I've said this before. If you guys listen to this show or you've listened to my Texas A&M Aggies Daily Blitz at fanstreamsports.com, this team's different. And these are the games that the Aggies found ways to lose. The game against Mississippi State, those are the games that they found ways to lose under the old regime, under all the old regimes, going back to RC. And the culture is different. How many times did you hear, if you watched the game, how many times did you hear the broadcasters talk about Aggie culture, the culture of this team? There was 6 minutes left. The game was not in question. The Aggies had put this one away, yet there was no celebrating on the sideline. There were no guys high-fiving, smiling, looking around, taking in the moment. Nope, the game was still going on, and they were still working. They were still looking at the game photos. They still had coaches in their ears, and they were listening intently. There was nobody that quit because they were up big. That is the difference in this Aggies culture from that of Jimbo, from that of Sumlin, going back to the damn Dennis Franchione days. And that's why it's different. Like, if you're not an Aggies fan, I apologize for spending so much time, but I thought it was the most notable game of the week here, as Brian Kelly is looking for work there in the SEC or wherever he's going to go. Who knows where he'll go? With his $3 million buyout, whatever it was, he doesn't have to work for a while. Him and Jimbo Fisher may go fishing together or something. I don't know. We'll see. Congratulations to the Aggies, though. Still number 3 in the country. 8-0, 5-0 in the conference. And it looks like a collision course for Ole Miss and Texas A&M in the SEC championship game if things remain as they are, with both teams playing very, very well right now this late in the season. Now let's move on to – got to do our whoosh sound. Let's move on to the Texas Longhorns, the number 22 Texas Longhorns, as once again they underperform to a subpar opponent. Nothing against Mississippi State, but they shouldn't be on the same level as the Longhorns. Even though they're at home, they're winless in the SEC. They were barely a game over 500. heading into this matchup, and you really had no hope unless they could take advantage of a bad Longhorns offense. That was not to be the case. The Longhorns had every reason to go in and lose this game. You go into the fourth quarter, you're the Longhorns, you are down 31-14, and you have done nothing to give anybody any reason to think you were going to come back and win this game, or that you should have come back and win this game. It was nowhere to be found. You looked like LSU in the second half against the Aggies, in the first half against the Bulldogs. You had nothing going for you. Then you get Ryan Niblett's 79-yard punt return to tie the game with just 147 as the Longhorns erase that deficit. Matthew Caldwell, you end up going to overtime. Matthew Caldwell throws that touchdown pass to Emmett Mosley after Arch was knocked out of the game with an apparent injury, as the Longhorns come roaring back to beat the Bulldogs. And I don't know, which team looked worse, the first half Longhorns or the second half Bulldogs, but it was a display of futility for both programs at whatever point during the game. The Longhorns were still down 38-21 with 12:29 left in the game. Booth had that 62-yard catch and run for a touchdown for Mississippi State. Then you get a 21-yard touchdown pass from Manning to Mosley with 9:34 left. Mason Shipley's 26-yard field goal in the final 5 minutes to get to within a touchdown for the Longhorns. Manning ended 29-46 for 346 yards. Yeah, 29-46 for 346 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. He also had a rushing touchdown before leaving early in overtime. The Bulldogs, Blake Shapen, the old Baylor quarterback, had a career game. He finished 26-42 for 381 yards and 4 touchdowns, but it was not enough to end what is now a 16-game SEC losing streak for the Bulldogs, 12 of which have come under Jeff Lebby's leadership. Mississippi State will get things figured out. It's a situation where I think they've got talent. I like Jeff Lebby. You got to get that first SEC win, right? You got to stop the streak. And then I think wins will come in bunches for them. Texas did finish with 428 yards of offense. The Bulldogs had 5 sacks, 12 tackles for loss. But for the Longhorns, they had 7 on Shapen. He was dropped 4 times in the final minutes of regulation and overtime. Look, the Longhorns were dead in the water, but continued to find ways to win despite not playing up to their potential. I still believe the offense is broken. Arch Manning had, again, flashes, signs, but I still don't have confidence in him, and now he's injured. I haven't seen an update. I probably should have looked for it for you guys, but you can look for that on the Texas Longhorns Daily Blitz at fanstreamsports.com. We'll have that for you probably out on Wednesday or Thursday this week for an update on Arch's condition and his injury. But, man, somehow, some way, the Texas Longhorns find a way to stay in the hunt, because you lose to Mississippi State and you are out of the college football playoff hopes. Those are dead for you. Very, very dead. And you know what? They may still be, because your schedule the rest of the way is not super favorable for the Longhorns to make a deep playoff run or even a playoff appearance. Because you've still got number 9 Vandy at home coming up this week. Then you've got to travel to Georgia, face on those number 5 Bulldogs. You've got Arkansas, which you're better than, but how will you play? That one's at home as well in Austin. And then, of course, you host the Aggies after Thanksgiving to close out the regular season schedule. The Longhorns have every opportunity to lose, 3 of those 4 games? At least 2 of those 4 games. You lose one more of these things with 3 losses, you are out of the playoff picture. And you might already be anyway. But we will see. We will see. But, man, kudos to the Longhorns. They keep finding ways to do it despite their offense, despite their offensive line, despite Arch Manning struggling. So we will see. Somebody who is not struggling as we transition once again, those Texas Tech Red Raiders, the number 14 Texas Tech Red Raiders, you come back from that hiccup against Arizona State, and you wonder what this thing would be like right now had you taken care of those Sun Devils. 42-0 over the Oklahoma State Cowboys. The Cowboys now fall to 1-7. They're winless in the Big 12. The Red Raiders, of course, improved to 7-1, 4-1 in the Big 12, and they're on a collision course, I think, with BYU for the Big 12 title game. We'll see how things finish out here towards the end of the season. But, Houston might have something to say about that. Cincinnati might have something to say about that. But we'll see how this thing progresses. Jacoby Williams returned the opening kickoff 99 yards for a touchdown and took a short pass 26 yards for a score on Tech's first play. It jump-started the Red Raiders to that 42-0 victory at home. Jacob Rodriguez returned a fumble 69 yards for a touchdown as Tech bounces back from the disappointment at Arizona State. That loss to the Sun Devils, of course, dropped the Red Raiders out of the top 10, as it should have. They will climb. They're back at 14 now. It was Texas Tech's first home Big 12 shutout since 2005 when they beat Baylor 28-0. Once again, you had a weather delay out in Lubbock. 30 minutes to start the game. Williams' return came on the first kickoff since school officials banned the years-long tradition of fans throwing tortillas on kickoffs. And look, I will give my thoughts on this. I did not go to Tech. I do have family ties to Tech. I love Tech. Clearly my favorite Big 12 team. And I understand this ban. I completely understand it, but I don't like it. That's one of the things that sets college out from the pros, right? Things like this, traditions like this. You got the cowbells in Starkville. You've got the 12th man in College Station. You've got the tortillas in Lubbock. And I get it from a safety standpoint. I 100% get it, but I don't like it. I didn't like that the Big 12 banned horns down back in the day. Good Lord, that was the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life, next to banning tortillas. But again, I get it. Things are not the same. And you know what? We'll come up with something else. The Red Raiders have been penalized twice on kickoffs in their previous home game for things being thrown onto the field in violation of a new Big 12 rule that came out in August. I didn't see any tortillas on that play or for the rest of the game, but we'll see. We'll see. Again, it's a safety thing. I get it, but I don't like it. Texas Tech blocked a punt on the first possession for the Cowboys, leading to Williams' TD catch on the screen from Will Hammond, who started a second consecutive game in place of the injured Baron Morton. Third stringer Mitch Griffiths replaced Hammond in the second quarter after Hammond sustained what McGuire said later was a knee injury without contact during a run. You hate to see or hear about the non-contact knee injuries. Those I've sustained, a couple of those, a couple of them with contact as well. And you never like to see those. Morton changed from street clothes to his uniform at halftime with the Red Raiders leading 28-0. He would have been, if Griffiths had gone down, you would have had to see Baron Morton. But he didn't have to get his uniform dirty. Griffiths threw a touchdown pass and ran for a score in the third quarter. And, man, how deep is this quarterback room for the Red Raiders? Incredible. McGuire said Morton could have started against the Cowboys, but the decision was made for another week of healing. He said Morton hyperextended his right knee in the opener and aggravated the injury against the Jayhawks back on October 11th. McGuire said he felt good with Will and Mitch. They wanted to get Morton another week of rest to get him as healthy as they can for the closing stretch of the season here. But if something crazy was going to happen to Mitch, and it was going to be a competitive game, they would have been able to put Morton in. Oklahoma State was limited to 182 yards in a 7th consecutive loss since beating lower division Tennessee Martin in the opener. The Cowboys have 3 shutout losses of at least 42 points since 2022. Jacob Rodriguez, 11th career fumble recovery. That is 2nd among active FBS players. Never touched the ground. He ripped the ball out of the arms of the offensive player in the middle of the line of scrimmage and ran untouched for the score. It was a thing of beauty that you are seeing more and more of these days, I think, at all levels. Guys just can't hang on to the ball even when you're holding it. It's a crazy thing. Griffiths kept Morton on the bench by leading a scoring drive for a 35-0 lead on Tech's first possession of the second half. He lost 3 yards on a 4th and 1 keeper on his first play after replacing Hammond, but his full first possession with the team ended up being a punt, but we know how things turned out. Griffiths was more than serviceable. We will evaluate Hammond. Find that on the Texas Tech Red Raiders Daily Blitz at fanstreamsports.com. Texas Tech has K-State coming up on Saturday. Should be a fun game. All my K-State fans already texting me, reaching out to me, so we will monitor that game very, very closely. Another win by a Big 12 team for you here in Texas is those TCU Horned Frogs went out to West Virginia to take on the Mountaineers. They come away 23-17 victorious. The Horned Frogs improved to 6-2, 3-2 in the Big 12. The Mountaineers fall to 2-6 and winless in the Big 12 at 0-5. Josh Hoover impressing again. He threw a touchdown pass. Nate McCashlin kicked 3 field goals, and TCU outlasted West Virginia on Saturday night. TCU barely outgained West Virginia. It was 343-342. You can't get much closer than that. But TCU made the most of their opportunities. West Virginia did not. TCU started its first 3 possessions past midfield and led 10-0 before West Virginia had even mustered a first down. Each team scored their initial touchdown on a short field following poor punts. After Trent Battle opened with a strong score on a 1-yard run for the Horned Frogs, Hoover fooled West Virginia's defense with a fake handoff and then found Eric McAllister on a 4-yard scoring toss. Midway through the second quarter, it was 17-7 Frogs. McAllister was targeted 18 times. He caught 9 passes for 124 yards. Hoover's tied with 2 others for the most touchdown passes at 21 in the country entering play. He finished 24-39 for 247 yards. McCashlin kicked field goals of 35, 22, and 41. West Virginia did now lost 5 straight. The Mountaineers have been held to 17 or fewer points 5 times this season. West Virginia freshman Scotty Fox Jr. threw 2 touchdown passes, including a 28-yarder to Jeff Weimer with 3:15 left in the game that got the score to where it was. TCU recovered the ensuing onside kick and ran out the clock. McAllister gave his team a scare, though. He caught a 21-yard touchdown pass on 3rd down, but fumbled, and teammate Major Everhart recovered it at the West Virginia 19 with 2 minutes left. TCU is clearly a better team, but you're on the road. It's a Big 12 game, and I don't care who your opponent is when you're on the road in the Big 12. Anything can happen in these conference games. And, we've talked about parity in college football this season. I think we've seen it more this season than in recent seasons. When you've got a 5-2 team hitting the road to play a 2-5 team in the Big 12, literally anything can happen. You've got to take care of your P's and Q's. You've got to take advantage of your situations like TCU did. I'll call it an impressive win. I don't think you should have had that much trouble with West Virginia, but I'll go so far as to call it an impressive win here for the Horned Frogs, who now have an off week before hosting Iowa State on November 8th. West Virginia plays at Houston on Saturday for those Cougars. Now we get into the losers of the conference. I don't think I did this on purpose, but our final 2 games here were losses, an inexplicable loss for me, for the SMU Mustangs, who head out to Wake Forest. They fall to the Demon Deacons 13-12 on a last play field goal. SMU now loses their first regular season ACC game. You knew it was coming, and you felt like it was coming this year for sure. SMU falls to 5-3 overall, 3-1 in the ACC. The Demon Deacons improved to 5-2, 2-2 in the ACC. Connor Calvert barely made a 50-yard field goal on the final play to give Wake Forest a 13-12 win over SMU on Saturday, sending the Mustangs to their first loss in the ACC in regular season play. The Mustangs had won 20 straight regular season conference games, the longest at the time active streak in the nation. SMU won its last 9 in the AAC and its first 11 since joining the ACC last season. Players and coaches stayed on the field demanding review of the ruling of the successful field goal. It was very, very close. There was no formal review on the field, but replays showed that it did clear the bar. And to tell you how close it was, it hit the center post, that padded center post. If you didn't see the game or see the play, it hit that padded center post after going through the crossbar. So that's only, 5 feet, I think, distance between the crossbar to the post as it sort of, it angles down there where the padding is. So, of course, when you see it hit that post, your immediate thought is, wow, it was short because it went under the crossbar and then it hit the post. But it did not. Replays showed that it cleared the crossbar and then it went down and hit the post. That's just how narrow of a make it was. But that's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. And SMU left a lot of plays on the field on Saturday against Wake Forest. I was impressed with how Wake Forest took advantage of their opportunities for the most part. SMU did not. Jake Dicker, the coach at Wake Forest, has a lot of things to celebrate. Kept Kevin Jennings in check, 21 of 39 for 171 yards. There were 8 turnovers, 2 missed field goals, and a blocked extra point kick, and 17 punts in this game. And it was a well-played defense by both schools. Both coaches admitted that. They conceded that. And if you like defense, this was a game for you. It was a fun one to watch. If you like defense, it was just a fun one to watch. Unfortunately for the Mustangs, they fall on the losing end of it. And then our other matchup for this week, let's head up to Cincinnati. Those number 21 Bearcats all over the Baylor Bears. And this was a case of a better team at home playing a subpar team on the road, is what it came down to. You had Brendan Sorsby throw through 2 touchdown passes, running for another, as the Bearcats more than double up Baylor 41-20 on Saturday. The Bearcats now have won 7 straight for the first time since 2021 when they reached the college football playoff. And, of course, we know who was their coach then. Baylor trailed 24-0 late in the first half and then cut it to 27-20 early in the fourth quarter behind 2 touchdown passes and a rushing touchdown by Sawyer Robertson. Sorsby's 23-yard touchdown capped the 12-play, 75-yard drive that took more than 7 minutes to make it 34-20 with 6 minutes left in the game. It was another situation on Saturday of Cincinnati starting fast. The Baylor Bears got a 3rd down stop on the Bearcats' first possession, but a pass interference penalty gave Cincinnati a 1st down. A 1-yard touchdown run by Walker capped an 81-yard drive, put the Bearcats ahead 7-0. The Bearcats found all the success that they needed on the ground, 265 total yards. A sack on 3rd down resulted in a Baylor punt. Cincinnati drove 66 yards in 10 plays. Evan Pryor's 5-yard touchdown run made it 14-0. You kind of already got the feeling like the Bears were out of this very, very early. Things did not go well the rest of the way. Steven Rusnak, the Bearcats kicker. It's going to get confusing saying Bears and Bearcats here. He made 2 more field goal attempts to improve on 11 on the season. He's made 22 straight attempts dating back to last season when he played for Charlotte. He's the only kicker in the country to not have missed a field goal attempt since the start of the 2024 season. What a weapon that is. Just ask the Dallas Cowboys there in the NFL. So yeah, it was not a good performance by Baylor. We're seeing what Baylor is. They're probably a 500 team, which is right where their record is right now overall. Things are going to get more tough as Baylor hosts UCF on Saturday. Cincinnati heads to Utah on Saturday, and we will see how the rest of the college football week plays out here. Again, teams to watch. Let's keep an eye on those Aggies. Let's keep an eye on those Longhorns. See what the situation is with Arch Manning. Keep an eye on those Texas Tech Red Raiders. See if they can finish strong. And we're getting teams now vying for position here for their conference championships around the country, which will then, of course, lead us into the college football playoff. Again, high hopes for the Big 12 for, an appearance. Again, we mentioned the teams that are really, really good. We've got Tech, we've got Baylor, we've got Cincinnati, or BYU, not Baylor, clearly not Baylor. BYU, Texas Tech, Cincinnati, Houston, all going strong here in the Big 12, just like you like to see. And then, of course, the Aggies dominating the SEC. And by the way, North Texas Mean Green had a week off. We will get back to some Mean Green talk, probably with some ACU, maybe some Stephen F. Austin, some Texas State talk next week for you here on Pigskin and Burn Ends. Texas college football talk right here on FanStream Sports and the College Gridiron Coast to Coast Network. Special thanks to our good friends at Ticket Smarter, ticketsmarter.com, and the Ticket Smarter app. Make sure you download it. Don't forget our codes LWOS10 and LWOS20. Think smarter, Ticket Smarter. Thank you, Ticket Smarter. Until next week, boys and girls, I'm IndyCar Tim, and we'll see you.